Yo, it's Matt. Today we're going to build some design tools, and I love creating designs. I love programmatically creating designs from images. And this video is going to be number one, super candid. We're just going to vibe code it live together, so you can see my process and how I approach problems. But then two, we're going to go over what actually inspired me to create this. So this Twitter post from a couple weeks ago from Brett at Design Joy makes really great content. I thought was cool. And so what Brett is doing here is he's taking an image. So here's like a kind of centurion, and he is turning those images into these dot grids, vectorized dot grids. So it's important to understand kind of what these terms mean. These are principles in vibe coding, right? Like, what does it mean to vectorize something? Well, that just means to convert like an actual image to the color representation of that image. So you're not constrained by pixels. You can scale this up or down infinitely. And so these images that he's creating here, he kind of goes through the steps of, okay, well, you upload this image to Figma, you install a plugin, then you're going to select a range and vectorize that image. So now you have like a grid of vectorized dots, and he can select each sort of pixel there. Then he's going to take all the squares and add a border radius to make them circular. He's going to add a black background, and then you get something that resembles the finished product. So there are a lot of steps here. This is maybe arguably too many steps. And the thing to point out is that these are all could be programmed. You could get a computer to do this. So I went ahead and ran a prompt here, and we have output. Now, I'll just be very clear about what I did. I said, very bare bones prompt, help me build an app that converts any image into a vectorized grid of pixels. Again, I'm taking the original prompt that Brett shared, and I'm making sure that I convert that into the right terminology, vectorized grid of pixels using React. The app should be minimalist. The only UI outside the image should be a floating sidebar. So I supplied an example of some converted images. An agent seemed to understand that. So this ran, no other interactions. So this is very much V1. So let's see what we got here. Okay, now first you might be saying, Matt, why aren't you going for like the actual image, right? Like, why didn't you go for the circular look here? Well, my thinking kind of was that we should start with the actual steps that Brett is doing here. And so in order to get to this, he actually just needs the vectorization first, right? And even if a computer was doing this, to get to the circular grid, it would also just need the pixel vectorization. Honestly, I think the pixelated look is maybe cooler, but we're going to go like kind of step by step. We're getting to an MVP first. So what do we have here? This is interesting. It actually looks like Agent might have done a little bit more than I wanted it to. Dithering is a type of effect. I've built dithering apps before. Maybe that'll be another tutorial where you apply kind of a shader or change the colors. We actually don't want to change the colors here. We just want the colors to be true. So I think it's really cool that it's pulling in the color palette. But the downside is that none of these settings actually work. So we're just going to tell Agent that. However, I will say the canvas here is really good. Like, this is quite literally exactly what I'd want from like a canvas, which sometimes it struggles with, and the upload functionality worked. That settings icon doesn't appear to do anything. So like for a first prompt, this is really good, but let's see what we can improve. The controls don't do anything. Also, the app is a bit too complex. I don't want to dither my image or control the number of colors. Focus on just converting the image to a grid of pixels with the same colors as the original image. The side bar is quite good. I'll be honest. We got to give Agent credits. The sidebar is quite good, but we should only be able to manipulate grid size and the effects. you have currently. Remove the dither settings. So I kind of want to take this out, and I want to take these style presets out. And style presets to kind of get to a simpler tool. The controls don't do anything. So let's see if this kind of fixes our problem. So again, being really descriptive, talking about prompting best practices, exactly what's going on, as if I was explaining this to a software developer or a junior software developer. So because agent gets confused too, just as if you were talking to your friend or colleague. What it did here was a really good first pass. We're going to try and move this closer to what we have in mind. And a lot of times that involves clarifying our original idea and being extremely explicit about what we want. So this is kind of expected that we're going to break the app, but we can kind of see what's going on here. It adjusted our image processor, so it's actually dropping features here and probably rewriting those. And then it's going to update the control sidebar to remove the dithering style presets. So now we're kind of taking out those elements. And if you follow along here, I think this is really fun to kind of learn about how apps are structured. So all of this is going on in the client, so the front end. Agent's editing the UI to kind of get where we want for this application. Yes, there are going to be errors when it's editing it live. And then I would presume it's going to move from adjusting the controls, what we described there, to reconfiguring kind of the back end and like the actual functionality. Because my guess would be it's not passing sort of the inputs we're providing to the back end, where I assume we're editing the image. But we can actually see what's going on if we open up the server. So this is an entirely client-side app. There's nothing going on in the server. Maybe just some very light functionality, but all of the things that we're doing here are kind of happening in the front end. So if we want to dig around, you can see components and what's going on. And I like to do this to kind of learn how the app works. Even if you don't know TypeScript, even if you don't know how to code, you can poke around and start to like understand how these apps are structured. And because of the way that agents build, all your apps will be structured in a very similar way. We'll have like a client and a server. Client is the front end, server is the back end. In the client, we'll have components as well as pages, kind of these main files here. And in the pages, we can kind of start to dig in and understand what's going on. So now we have a much simpler sidebar over here. But it looks like it updated the controls. So we have kind of our V2. So we get this guy. There really shouldn't be, number one, I like that we can control the contrast and the saturation. Our color palette does not appear to be working entirely, and I'm not sure that's necessary to begin with. But now our grid size is working, so this is cool. Let's reset that. This doesn't actually look like the image, right? Like it looks like there might be some sort of color adjustment that's going on. So let's say, number one, I want this to happen in real time. It should be able to happen in real time. Can you make the adjustments real time so there's no processing loading state? Also, the colors of the image appear to be adjusted. The colors of the image appear to be adjusted. Can you ensure the image looks identical, or the colors are the same until we apply effects? Also, remove the color palette in the sidebar. The color palette's a cool idea. I just think that there are too many colors. There are going to be too many colors in these images such that it just kind of gets in our way. But the image info is really cool. I like that. And then let's test out. So we're exporting PNGs. So the whole point of this being kind of a vector grid is that we'd want to be able to export SVGs. I like the save presets. That's something we'd want to kind of explore in the future. But we want to be able to export SVGs. Also, I just typically use this as kind of like a thinking kind of next steps to-do list, if you will. I'm not going to send this prompt. So we want to be able to export SVGs. The grid size. Oh, there we go. So now we have accurate color and it updates in real time. It's kind of crazy that it had the loading state and it couldn't just give me this couldn't give me this off the bat. This is like exactly what we want. Cool. So I want to be able to export SVGs. Now moving closer to our sort of design joy example, we want to change the shape of the pixels. So circles. Maybe we try out something different, diamonds. I don't know. Whatever. Let's fire it up one more time. We have our grid size adjustment. We can adjust brightness. Yeah, there was like some contrast adjustment basically that was happening before. I also really like the reset sort of functionality. That's nice. I see it. It's like I get impatient and I try to edit the app while agent is or interact with the app while agent is editing and it breaks stuff. But it seems to be fixing my errors. So what are some other like debugging tips while agent is fixing this? Often, I think one of the most important things is understanding what the console is and where you can look for errors. So when you have an application, if you're developing an app separate from just vibe coding or whatever, you're going to have a front end and a back end. And the front end typically is like what we're seeing in the browser, and the back end is like server actions. Now, as I told you earlier, this app is mostly front end, mostly building in the front end. And when you want to see errors in the front end, you'd go to the console or the dev tools. You can access that in Replit by going here, or, if we're looking at this app sort of natively in the browser, might just take a second to load here. You can access these by, in Chrome. You can either right click and click inspect to get sort of the console, which I have here, or access it a few other ways in Chrome. But that's an important place to go to get errors. So it looks like we kind of got our agents done editing here. Upload our test image. Grid size seems to be working. There's a little bit of lag here, so maybe we try and improve the performance. Let's start with our pixels, though. Allow me to change the shape of the pixels, circle, diamonds, etc. The default should be square. This is what we have currently. We want no gaps in between the pixels. Now, why did I say the default should be square and this is what we have currently? I think it's important to establish boundary and edge cases when you're building with AI. So what do I mean? Well, I mean like giving the examples of currently you have this, right? Like currently the app, think about the pixels as square. We might want to be able to change those to circular. That tells AI, it informs AI of these boundary conditions of providing concrete examples of exactly the state of the application and what you want. And if you can precisely describe state, it's really important for getting what you want. Because say AI misinterpreted me and thought, oh, well, I need to make the pixel square. That must be different from what the app currently has. Now, obviously, I'm giving AI emotions and thoughts and whatnot, and that's not how AI works. However, what I have found is that the technique of specifying this is how the app functions currently, and this is something similar to how it functions currently, but slightly different that I'd like to be able to do, that works really well. So a little piece of advice there. Those types of prompts typically get us to better outcomes. So up next is going to be SVG exports. But you can see what it's doing here. New pixelate with shape method. So it's defining in our image processor a method that's going to allow us to pass shapes to our pixelation technique. And this is what we want. So it's building out the actual image processor functionality. in use image processor, hooks use image processor. So we can actually see all the different like code that agent's building out here in our application. And now it's going to add a control sidebar component to include the pixel shape controls. So we should see that in real time as well. So kind of curious, what does this do? Nothing. I do want a load sample image button. I try to do that in all my apps, like add a load sample so people can very quickly see what the app does. But my goal here, again, is to really just fix these functionalities. Then we'll go into load sample. And then kind of like down the line, you know, when I'm building internal tools like these, it's because I use them a lot and like I might be creating a lot of images. So I always think like batch processing is really important. So now we got square, circle, diamond. Really loving the SVGs on these shapes here also. Let's try this out. Oh, it reloaded the app while I was uploading. Okay. There's lag on this, like hard lag, but okay. This looks pretty close to what we want. I think the only thing is that there should be a black background on the image when we select different pixel shapes with gaps. I'm pretty sure that will get us exactly where we want. And then we just need to add SVG export and then figure out why this is like hella laggy. The diamond is also pretty trippy. Oh my gosh, this is like, I mean, well, that was a very simple fix. So there you kind of got diamonds and you got circles. We're getting there. Okay, so now let's say allow me to export my images as, or give me two options, PNG or SVG export. Again, it's kind of like talking to like a genie, you know, like in all these cartoons or whatever. The genie gives you three wishes, and then you give, you know, it'll grant your wish, but it'll remove something or it won't give you exactly what you ask for. I want two options, PNG and SVG export. I don't want you to remove SVG export or remove PNG export rather in the process of implementing the other one of those things. Look at that. It knows exactly what I'm trying to do. That's excellent. So we should get that. Have our SVG option. Now I'm going to say our next prompt is going to be like, there's quite a bit of processing lag when I apply settings. Is there a way, actually, what are some ways we can make the app more efficient so edits are applied in real time? This is another pattern for prompting with AI. I'm saying, what are some ways I could do this? What is the most efficient way that I can implement this solution? Sometimes just asking AI to kind of reflect on that gets you better results than the first prompt. That's kind of crazy. It's kind of wild that that's how it works, but that's just like the fact of the matter, and this is the state of reality. So we got that. We got our circles. I have to click this twice for some reason. Let's mention that. And I have to click the pixel shape button twice. But, you know, if we're talking about this compared to this, I think we're getting there, which is pretty exciting. Yeah. Pretty amazing, right? So in about probably like 10 or 15 minutes here, we've gotten to a point where we're able to replicate this exactly using our app already. Still a little buggy, but as I kind of iterate through these additional prompts, what you're seeing is that the app is just getting exponentially better. And this is an important lesson, honestly, in building with AI, because I think the way that AI gets sold or like vibe coding gets kind of sold to people is you're going to type in one sentence and you're going to have this thing and it's going to be amazing. And if you can't do that, there's something wrong, you're with the tool or, maybe you're not doing things properly. It's not true. None of that's true. It takes a lot of work and it takes some finesse and it takes, it's very much building. It's like, building anything from scratch. There's some back and forth and you have to be willing to debug and kind of experience these errors and bang your head against the wall sometimes. But you will get there if you apply enough effort. So let's see what it's doing, actually. You're right about the performance issues. I don't need to be glazed by all the AI models, but, I appreciate that agent likes to tell me that. But it sees inefficiencies. Debounced processing. I don't know what that means. Double click issue. Well, let's learn. Assistant, while agent's building. Explain debounce processing. What is that? I'm like generally curious to learn about debounced processing. Interesting. So this is one of the great uses of assistants to like explain things within the context of the app. When a user drags a slider, it fires super fast. Like it's firing many events rapidly. So it's like event, right? Like all these events. Debounce processing says wait until I'm done dragging the slider. So it's kind of like adding a timeout. And the cool thing is that, now we see this debounce reprocess function is adding a timeout so that we're not firing all those events in our slider. So I think we have our debounce step. So yeah, now it's instant because it's not firing those events all the time, right? Like as soon as I stop dragging, then it processes, which is what we want, right? Before it was like lagging because it was trying to apply dozens of transformations as I dragged the image. Let's try this again. So super responsive. This is still not working, right? I click circle. I have to click it twice. I have to click square twice. Same thing with diamond. So that's an issue. But we got the much smoother adjustment. The pixel shape buttons still aren't working. Please debug this issue. So we'll focus on this now. I think, this should fix it. I like to start high level and then drill down. So like this is not a very detailed prompt. But if this doesn't fix, we will get more detailed and try to understand the problem. Yeah, it's very weird. And then the other thing I would want to check is that like we're actually able to export this properly. So let's export it as a PNG. Yeah, it looks pretty good. Close that random Claude icon that appeared. It looks like there might be some like noise here. Yeah, this isn't what I would expect from an SVG import, right? Like it looks like there's some artifacts. So I don't think we've copied this exactly. Let's take a look at the SVG. And the SVG export is broken. Okay. So we're getting there, but we need to, there's some work that needs to be done. So what you can see here is like if I zoom in on this image, the preview is what I'd expect, right? Like these are all uniform colors, but then in the exports, like I'm seeing some quality loss and some artifacts. And when I say that, I just mean like some like dots here, right? Like that's not exactly what I'd expect. So I'm going to upload our test image one more time. Let's see if it fixed this guy. Same issue. So we're going to have to address that. There is some quality loss on export, and the SVG exports are incorrect. Take a look at the export functionality and be sure you're exporting PNGs at high quality and SVGs that accurately represent the image. So I'm going to fire that off. And then in parallel, what I'm going to do here is I'm going to try and understand what's going on. So this is our console, and it looks like Agent implemented some logging. When I click circle button clicked, current shape square. Set pixel and reprocess called with circle current square. Immediate response called current image exists true. So this is like, great, something is off here. Circle button clicked, current shape square. Square. I don't see anything that's actually saying reprocess the image into a square until I click it again. So once, twice, once, still says square, twice, now it says circle, now it has circle. And kind of funny, I didn't even ask Agent to do this, but it kind of saw that buttons are being clicked and functions are being called. So as I was clicking these buttons, it said, I can see the pixel shape buttons are being clicked correctly, but the visual changes aren't showing. That's kind of crazy. The issue is likely in the image processing pipeline. Let me debug and fix the shape rendering process. So what it's actually doing is seeing the console as I click these buttons. As I click these different pixel shape buttons, Agent is seeing what's going on in the console, and it's actually saying, oh, well, actually, the pixel shape value is lagging behind. That's like literally what I just said to you. This is a React state update timing issue. So it looks like it fixed that. It did. It fixed it in real time. So now we're getting our shapes in real time. That's awesome. And again, this is what I want. This looks right. But the SVG generation wasn't actually using the actual processed image data. See what we get. There you go. So this is now the new SVG. This looks like exactly what we had. And then our new PNG. You can even see, right, this is old. We had like this super grainy kind of result, and new that's not there, right? Like this is a much higher quality PNG, right? We got like very clean grid that we're exporting. Let's test it with the circles, because like in the preview, it looks like there's a little bit of an artifact, and I want to make sure that we do this right. Nope, that's perfect. No notes. Gorgeous. Amazing. Same thing here. Exactly what we want. If I zoom in far enough, but I think this is like within the bounds of what I expect from a PNG, especially since, right, that's the whole point of of doing a vectorized image, is that we can kind of like zoom in indefinitely here, and it's just color and it looks high quality. So if you want the high quality image, you got to use the SVG, right? But fixed pixel shape buttons, they now respond immediately with correct visual changes, improve PNG export quality, fix SVG export accuracy, optimize performance with debounce processing, remove event propagation issues. Okay, sweet. Now let's now can we update the load sample image to load the following. So we can use our visual editor, select that button just to give the context of what I'm trying to load. And then I'm going to attach our test image. So what we're just doing manually. We're going to say, hey, here's an asset. I want you to be able to load this image as a test in the application so that, I don't have to upload it every time like I've been doing in this process. And then, next steps, I think we'd think through settings. We'd think through maybe even like being able to log in or have an account of some sort to save presets. We have that button here. Did this work? It did not work. Since this is in the client, let's see what's going on. inspect. Nothing is happening. And I don't see. Typically when stuff like this breaks, I'll just go into the actual page here. So this is my page. You can search for load sample image, find the text. So here's the button, image source, attached assets. Again, I think that it's actually just easier to debug this. What it's doing is it's looking for this image, test image, and it's not finding it. Typically, I just know we're going to get better at this as a company, but I just know it's not going to be able to load anything unless it's in the public folder because the relative import is probably wrong. My guess would be that doing that would fix it. Yep, there you go. So I just need to move this to public. Agent kind of messes that up sometimes. Again, we're making improvements there. But super simple. If you're trying to get images to load, they're not loading. You can just move it to a public folder in the client, and that's where the relative imports are going to pull from. It's kind of just basics of Vite type stuff. So now I can reset the settings there. Might also want like a reset zoom button, or to make settings reset the zoom as well. I'm a little skeptical. I have no idea when I click save preset. I think it just throws a toast. I don't think it actually does anything. Shareable link. Yeah, this shareable link doesn't do anything either for the moment. So what I'm going to do now is we can deploy this. Let's deploy this. We'll call this pixel grid .replit.app. npm run build, npm run start. We're just going to deploy this as is. I don't worry about the settings too much typically. We can optimize later. And now, just like that, we built a cool design tool. We can use this forever. I'm going to share this with you guys. I'll deploy it and drop the link in the video so you can go use it if you want. And you can use it as a starting point. I'll also make this public and I'll share this URL. So you can use this as a starting point for any app really that you're trying to build if you're trying to do something similar. But you also saw exactly how I did this and how I debugged it. So you have all of the steps that you need to do something exactly like I did. And I bet you have some cool ideas that you might want to implement that are even cooler than this one. So again, I'm Matt with Replit. This has been how you can build design tools, take ideas that you see other people doing that are manual steps, and turn them into fully functioning apps that do exactly what you want, and then use like maybe these assets to make some really cool marketing, visual materials, some art, basically. But until next time, peace.